In the opulent halls of the Whitmore estate, where the echoes of laughter and the whispers of history intertwined, Harold Whitmore stood at the precipice of a storm. At 81, he had amassed wealth beyond imagination, but what lingered in the shadows of his heart was a far more pressing concern: the legacy of his family. The estate, with its sprawling gardens and grandiose architecture, had been a symbol of power and tradition for generations. It was not merely a home. It was a fortress of memories, secrets, and the weight of expectations that bore down on him like the heavy tapestries adorning the walls. As Harold gazed out from the balcony, surveying the meticulously manicured grounds, he couldn't shake the feeling that time was slipping through his fingers. The golden rays of the sun cast a warm glow, yet a chill settled in his bones. His thoughts turned to the impending auction, a forced sale that threatened to strip the Whitmore name from the very land his ancestors had cultivated. Mismanaged investments and poor decisions had left him at a crossroads, and he could almost hear the hushed conversations of those eager to seize what had been the pride of his lineage. Yet, it wasn't just the estate at stake. It was the essence of his family, the very fabric of their identity woven into every corner of that grand house. He could picture his father, a man of unyielding principles, walking through those same halls, a figure of strength and wisdom. It was his father who had instilled in Harold the values of hard work and determination, yet even those lessons felt fragile in the face of looming bankruptcy. The past weighed heavily on Harold as he recalled the countless nights spent listening to his father's stories, tales of triumph, struggle, and a relentless pursuit of success. But buried beneath those stories was a tension, an unspeakable truth that had lingered in the air, unacknowledged but ever present. Harold had never questioned the choices his father made, believing them to be the foundation of their family's legacy. Now, however, he found himself confronting not only the threat of losing his home, but also the nagging suspicion that there was more to his father's life than he had ever realized. As the days passed, the impending auction loomed larger. Harold's daughter, Evelyn, a spirited woman with dreams of her own, had urged him to let go of the estate, to embrace change and modernity. "It's just a house, Dad," she had said, her voice filled with a mix of concern and frustration. "We can create new memories elsewhere." But to Harold, it was never just a house. It was a sanctuary where love had flourished, where bonds had been forged, and where a legacy had been built. Letting go felt like surrendering to fate, a betrayal of everything his family had stood for. On a particularly stormy evening, as thunder rumbled in the distance, Harold found himself rifling through the remnants of his father's life. Old boxes filled with photographs, letters, and documents told stories of triumph and heartache. Each item pulled him deeper into a past he thought he knew. But as he sifted through the clutter, something caught his eye: a worn leather-bound journal, hidden beneath a stack of forgotten papers. Its edges were frayed, the pages yellowed with age. Harold felt a shiver run down his spine as he realized this could hold answers to questions he hadn't even dared to ask. With trembling hands, he opened the journal, the faint scent of aged paper wafting up to meet him. The first few pages were filled with his father's meticulous handwriting, recounting daily life and business dealings. But as Harold delved deeper, the entries grew more cryptic, filled with references to a family secret and a promise to protect the Whitmore name at all costs. His heart raced as he read about hidden assets and a trust set aside for the right moment, details that seemed to imply a web of intrigue surrounding the estate. What was his father hiding? Why had he never shared this with Harold? Each revelation ignited a fire within him, a mix of anger and confusion. Could it be that all the sacrifices his father had made were rooted in a secret that could save their legacy? As the storm outside intensified, mirroring the turmoil brewing within him, Harold understood that the fight to keep the estate would not merely be about money or property. It would require unraveling the mysteries of his family's past, confronting the shadows that had lingered for too long. Determined to uncover the truth, Harold felt a renewed sense of purpose. The estate had been more than a financial asset. It was a testament to his father's life and choices. With each passing hour, he became more resolved to unearth the secrets that lay hidden within those walls. He knew that to save his family's legacy, he would first have to confront the legacy of his father. a journey that would test his resolve and reshape everything he thought he knew about love, loyalty, and the true meaning of family. As the winds howled outside, Harold prepared to descend into a labyrinth of memories, eager to piece together the puzzle that had eluded him for so long. The stakes were higher than ever, and he was ready to fight not just for the estate, but for the very soul of his family. With the journal clasped tightly in his hands, Harold made his way to the grand study, a room filled with dark wood, leather-bound books, and the weight of countless decisions made over the years. He settled into the worn leather armchair his father had favored, the creaking of the seat echoing like a ghostly reminder of the past. The fire crackled in the hearth, casting flickering shadows that danced across the walls, and for a moment, Harold felt the comforting presence of his father beside him. He opened the journal once more, the pages whispering secrets long buried. The ink had faded, but the urgency of his father's words was unmistakable. There was mention of a family trust, established with careful deliberation, a lifeline that could save the estate but was shrouded in conditions that remained vague. Each entry hinted at a deeper layer of complexity, talk of betrayal, of alliances forged and broken, and a resolve that seemed to thrum beneath the surface. "Protect the Whitmore name," Harold read aloud, the words tasting bitter on his tongue. "At all costs." The phrase echoed in his mind, and he wondered what his father had feared so deeply that he'd felt the need to inscribe such a warning. Who or what had posed a threat to their family legacy? As he pondered, the sound of thunder rolled ominously, shaking the very foundation of the estate. Determined to find clarity, Harold turned to the next pages, each one a revelation that deepened his intrigue. There were references to the hidden chamber, a place within the estate that had been sealed off for years. It had been a mere whisper among the family, a rumor that perhaps stemmed from childhood tales spun during long, rainy afternoons. Harold had always dismissed it as folklore, but now it pulsed with significance. If this hidden chamber held the key to the trust, he had to discover its location. But before he could delve deeper, the familiar sound of footsteps interrupted his thoughts. Evelyn entered the study, her brow furrowed with concern. "Dad, you're still here?" she asked, glancing at the scattered papers and the fire's flickering glow. "You've been at this for hours." "I'm fine, Evelyn," he replied, though he could hear the tremor in his voice. "I've found something important." Her eyes flicked to the journal, and she approached cautiously, her interest piqued. "What is it?" "It's my father's journal. He wrote about the estate, about secrets and a trust that could save us." He gestured to the pages, feeling both anxious and excited to share this new discovery. Evelyn leaned closer, skimming the text with growing curiosity. "A trust? What kind of conditions? Is it worth anything?" "I don't know yet," Harold admitted, "but it seems there's more to our family history than I realized. Something about a hidden chamber." Evelyn's eyes widened. "A hidden chamber? I've heard the stories, but I thought they were just that, stories. Are you saying there's actually something to them?" "I believe so. We need to find it. It could be the key to everything." Evelyn bit her lip, her expression a mix of skepticism and intrigue. "Do you really think this will help? We have less than a month before the auction." "It's our only chance," he insisted, feeling the weight of urgency pressing down on him. "We can't let this place slip through our fingers without a fight." She nodded slowly, though her eyes held traces of doubt. "Then let's do it. But we need to be careful. If there's something hidden, there's a reason for it." As father and daughter began to sift through the journal together, the lines between past and present blurred. They plotted their next steps, meticulously reviewing the descriptions and piecing together their father's cryptic hints. Time passed unnoticed as they shared theories and stories, their bond strengthened by the shared quest. "Do you remember the old attic?" Evelyn asked suddenly, her voice laced with nostalgia. "We used to play up there as kids. It was always so dusty and full of strange things." "Yes," Harold smiled, the memory brightening his spirit. "I remember. We found that old trunk filled with letters and photographs. Maybe there's something there too," she suggested, a spark of hope igniting. "Let's check it out," he agreed. Rising from his chair with renewed determination, they headed toward the staircase, the ancient wooden steps creaking underfoot as they ascended. The attic door loomed at the end of the hallway, slightly ajar, as if beckoning them. Harold pushed it open, the musty air swirling around them like an embrace. Dust motes floated in the shafts of light filtering through the small window, illuminating the forgotten treasures that lay within. Boxes were stacked haphazardly, relics of a time long past. They began to rummage through them, pulling out an array of items. Childhood toys, faded clothes, and yellowed letters that spoke of dreams and disappointments. Each item unearthed stories, but they were searching for something more significant, a clue to the hidden chamber that could potentially change their fate. "Over here," Evelyn called suddenly, excitement threading through her voice. She had discovered a small trunk tucked away in the corner, its lock rusted and barely visible. Harold knelt beside her, the trunk evoking a sense of anticipation. "Let's see what's inside." He pulled at the lock, and with a little effort, it sprang open, revealing its contents. A collection of old documents, photographs, and a small, ornate key. "What is this?" Evelyn asked, her eyes widening as she picked up the key, its surface glimmering in the dim light. "I don't know, but it looks important," Harold replied, examining the papers. Among them, he found a faded map, its edges frayed, with the estate outlined in intricate detail. His heart raced as he traced the lines with his finger. "This must be a layout of the property. And look here." Evelyn leaned closer as he pointed to a section of the map. "This is where the hidden chamber should be? Could it be that simple?" she asked, disbelief mingling with excitement. "Perhaps," Harold replied, his mind racing with possibilities. "If we can find the location, we might uncover the secret my father left behind." The prospect of discovery sent a thrill coursing through him. Together, they examined the map more closely, marking points of interest and strategizing their next move. They knew the search wouldn't be easy, but the bond they shared, the urgency to protect their family's legacy, gave them strength. As they gathered their findings and descended the staircase, Harold felt a surge of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this was the turning point he had been longing for. The auction, once a looming specter, now seemed like a challenge to be met head-on. Back in the study, they spread out the map and documents on the polished mahogany desk, their minds racing with questions. "What did your father mean by protecting the Whitmore name?" Evelyn pondered aloud, her brow furrowed in thought. "He was fiercely proud of our heritage," Harold replied, the words laced with a sense of nostalgia. "But I think he must have known something that made him feel vulnerable. Perhaps he was worried about outsiders taking advantage of our name or legacy. Or maybe there was something he wanted to keep hidden," Evelyn suggested, her eyes narrowing in suspicion. "Exactly," Harold said, his heart racing. "And whatever it is, it's tied to that chamber." They decided to begin their search at first light, armed with the map and their father's journal. As night fell, Harold retired to bed, his mind whirling with thoughts of what lay ahead. Sleep came fitfully, filled with dreams of shadowy figures and hidden doors, his father's warnings echoing in his ears. When dawn broke, a sense of urgency propelled him from bed, and he was soon joined by Evelyn, who shared his determination. "Let's get started," she said, her eyes bright with excitement. With the map in hand, they made their way to the section outlined as the hidden chamber. It led them to the farthest corner of the estate, where overgrown shrubs and tangled vines obscured what lay beneath. They approached the area, the air thick with anticipation and the scent of damp earth. "This is it," Harold declared, scanning the surroundings. "If there's a chamber, it has to be closed." They began to clear the foliage, pulling away the brambles and weeds that had claimed the space. With each removed branch, the weight of their family's history pressed upon them, as if the very ground beneath their feet held the stories of generations past. Hours passed as they worked diligently, sweat glistening on their brows, but their resolve never waned. Suddenly, Evelyn's shovel struck something solid. "Dad, I think I found it." Harold rushed over, heart pounding. Together, they cleared the debris, revealing a wooden door set into the earth, its surface weathered and adorned with intricate carvings that seemed to tell a story of their own. "This must be it," he whispered, a washing over him. "The hidden chamber." Evelyn looked at him, her eyes shining with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "Are we ready for this? Whatever lies beyond this door may hold the answers we seek," he replied, steeling himself for what was to come. With a trembling hand, Harold grasped the ornate key they had found in the trunk. He approached the lock, heart racing, and inserted the key. It turned with surprising ease, the sound echoing like a distant drumbeat. As the door creaked open, a wave of cool, musty air wafted out, enveloping them in an embrace of history. With one last look at each other, they stepped inside, leaving behind the sunlight that had guided their journey. The chamber was dimly lit, illuminated only by the soft glow filtering through cracks in the stone walls. Dust motes hung suspended in the air, and the scent of age lingered, an aroma of secrets waiting to be uncovered. As they ventured deeper, their surroundings revealed artifacts and heirlooms, items that belonged to their ancestors, preserved in time. Shelves lined the walls, filled with books, letters, and old photographs, each a testament to the life that had thrived within the Whitmore family. But it was the center of the chamber that drew their attention. An ornate chest, intricately carved and adorned with jewels that sparkled even in the dim light. Harold's heart raced as they approached it, the air thick with anticipation. "This must contain the family secrets," he murmured, running his fingers over the cool surface. Evelyn nodded, her eyes wide. "Do you think it holds the trust?" "I hope so," he replied, feeling the weight of their legacy pressing down upon him. "We need to know what our father intended." With a deep breath, Harold lifted the lid, the hinges creaking in protest. Inside lay a collection of documents, neatly organized, as if waiting for their rightful owners to reclaim them. They quickly began to sift through the contents, each paper igniting a spark of hope and revelation. But as they delved deeper, the mood shifted. Among the documents, Harold found a letter addressed to him, the handwriting unmistakable. His father's final words, written with the weight of a lifetime, stared back at him. "Harold," he read aloud, his voice thick with emotion. "If you are reading this, it means I have departed this world, and it is time for you to understand the truth." The room fell silent, the gravity of the moment palpable. Harold exchanged a look with Evelyn, both sensing the importance of what lay ahead. "What truth?" Evelyn whispered, her breath hitching in her throat. With a steadying breath, Harold continued to read, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions swirling within him. The letter spoke of hidden choices, sacrifices made for the sake of family, and the burden of legacy that had haunted his father throughout his life. "The estate has always been a blessing and a curse," the letter revealed. "I made decisions to protect you, but in doing so, I sealed away parts of our family history. You must decide how to navigate this legacy, for it is now yours to bear." Tears pricked at the corners of Harold's eyes as he absorbed the weight of his father's words. The truth was a double-edged sword, carrying both the promise of discovery and the burden of understanding. "What does this mean for us?" Evelyn asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know yet," Harold replied, his heart heavy with uncertainty. "But we're in this together, and we'll face whatever comes next." They continued to explore the chest, uncovering additional documents that detailed the family trust, its conditions, and the very history that had been kept secret. Each revelation deepened their understanding of the Whitmore legacy and the sacrifices that had shaped their family. As they pieced together the fragments of their past, the atmosphere shifted, a sense of clarity emerging from the chaos. They realized that their fight to save the estate wasn't just about preserving bricks and mortar. It was about honoring the lives and choices that had come before them. Harold felt a newfound resolve, the weight of his father's legacy now a source of strength rather than fear. Together, he and Evelyn were ready to reclaim their story, to honor their family by facing the truth and making it their own. The chamber had held more than secrets. It had unveiled a path forward, a chance to write their own chapter in the Whitmore legacy. And as they emerged from the darkness, the light of a new beginning illuminated their way. The journey of discovery had only just begun, and with each step forward, they knew they would have to confront not only their family's past but also the future they desired to build together. As father and daughter stepped out into the sunlight, the weight of the estate loomed large, but so did the hope of what lay ahead. Stepping back into the sunlight, Harold and Evelyn felt a mixture of exhilaration and trepidation. The weight of their discoveries pressed upon them, but so did a sense of purpose. They had unearthed more than just secrets. They had found a roadmap to their family's legacy. The thought of confronting the looming auction brought a surge of adrenaline. This was not just about keeping the estate. It was about reclaiming their history and ensuring the Whitmore name endured. "We need to plan our next steps," Harold said, his voice steady with determination. "The auction is in 2 weeks, and we need to act fast." Evelyn nodded, her brows furrowing with thought. "We should meet with a lawyer. If there's a trust, we need someone who can help us navigate the legalities." "Good idea," he replied, running a hand through his thinning hair. "I'll reach out to Robert. He's always been trustworthy." As they walked back toward the house, the sprawling estate loomed before them, its grandeur now tinged with a renewed sense of hope. The gardens, once a reminder of loss and impending change, now felt like a canvas of possibilities waiting to be painted with their own narrative. Inside, they gathered around the dining table, spreading out the documents they had retrieved from the chest. The sun streamed through the tall windows, illuminating the pages filled with their family's history. Harold felt a strange mix of nostalgia and urgency. He could almost hear the voices of his ancestors echoing through the halls, urging him to preserve what they had built. "What do we know so far?" Evelyn began, her voice resolute as she sorted through the papers. "This trust, it was set up to protect the estate from creditors, right?" "Yes," Harold replied, recalling the details. "It outlines specific conditions under which the estate can be maintained, but it also mentions that it can only be accessed by the direct descendants of the Whitmore line." "So, us," she said, her eyes lighting up. "But there has to be more to it. What if there are stipulations we don't know about? If we don't meet them, we could still lose everything." "Exactly," he said, his heart pounding at the thought. "Let's focus on understanding those conditions. If we can meet them, we can present our case at the auction." Evelyn flipped through the pages, her fingers dancing over the ink as she read aloud the stipulations regarding the family trust. "It says here that the estate must remain operational and open to the public in some capacity. It also mentions that it should serve as a place for community gatherings and events." "Community gatherings?" Harold echoed, pondering the implications. "That's a good angle. We can leverage that to present our case to the auction committee. If we can show our commitment to the community, it could strengthen our position." Evelyn's eyes brightened with enthusiasm. "What if we host an event right before the auction? A celebration of the Whitmore legacy, open to the public. We can invite local families, historians, anyone who's ever had a connection to the estate. It would demonstrate our intent to honor the property and its history." "I love that idea," Harold said, a surge of hope washing over him. "We can showcase the estate's significance and rally support from the community. They might even help us raise funds if it comes to that." As they brainstormed, excitement filled the air. The thought of revitalizing the estate and re-engaging with the community ignited a passion within them both. They began to sketch out plans for the event, setting a date, organizing activities, and reaching out to local historians to share stories about the Whitmore family's impact on the town. Over the next few days, Harold and Evelyn worked tirelessly, channeling their energy into planning the event. They secured a date, just days before the auction, and set about organizing a celebration that would not only honor their family legacy but also unite the community around it. They envisioned an afternoon filled with local music, storytelling, and activities for children, all set against the backdrop of the estate's stunning gardens. As they distributed flyers and engaged with local businesses, the buzz of anticipation grew. Neighbors expressed their excitement and shared their own memories of the estate, weaving a tapestry of connection that Harold had longed for. For the first time in years, the Whitmore estate felt alive, as if the spirits of their ancestors were smiling down on their efforts. On the eve of the event, Harold stood outside the estate, the golden hour casting a warm glow over the manicured gardens. He took a deep breath, inhaling the fragrant scent of blooming flowers mixed with the earthy aroma of freshly turned soil. The air was electric with possibility, and he felt a surge of gratitude for Evelyn's unwavering support. As they finalized the last details, Evelyn joined him outside. "It's all coming together, Dad," she said, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. "It really is," he replied, a smile spreading across his face. "I didn't realize how much I needed this connection to our community and to each other." The event was a success beyond their expectations. Families from all over town arrived, eager to celebrate the history of the estate. Harold and Evelyn mingled among the guests, sharing stories and laughter as they walked through the gardens, their hearts swelling with pride at the turnout. As twilight descended, the garden transformed into a magical space, illuminated by twinkling fairy lights strung from the branches of ancient trees. A local band played soft music, the melodies mingling with the sound of laughter and conversation. Harold felt an overwhelming sense of belonging as he watched families gather around, sharing in the stories of their past. "Look at all these people," Evelyn said, her voice filled with awe. "I can't believe how many lives the Whitmore estate has touched." "It's a testament to our family's legacy," Harold replied, his heart swelling with pride. "This is exactly what your grandfather wanted. This connection, this community." As the sun dipped below the horizon, Harold took to the small stage they had set up, ready to address the crowd. He felt a mixture of nerves and excitement, his heart pounding as he stepped into the spotlight. "Thank you all for being here today," he began, his voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions coursing through him. "This estate has been a part of this community for generations, and it means more to us than just bricks and mortar. It's a symbol of our shared history and the bonds that tie us together." He spoke passionately about the significance of the estate, weaving in stories of his ancestors, their struggles, and their triumphs. He shared his vision for the future, one where the estate continued to serve as a gathering place for the community, where memories could be made and history could be preserved. As he concluded, the crowd erupted in applause, a wave of support washing over him. "Together, we can ensure that the Whitmore estate remains a vital part of our community for generations to come," he declared, his voice ringing with conviction. When he stepped down from the stage, Evelyn wrapped her arms around him. "You did it, Dad. They loved it." "Thank you, sweetheart," he replied, overwhelmed with emotion. "This means everything." As the night wore on, conversations flowed, laughter filled the air, and bonds were strengthened. Harold felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing they had taken a significant step toward preserving their family's legacy. The following day, as they began to clean up after the event, a local journalist approached them, intrigued by the celebration. "I'd love to do a feature on the estate and its history," she said, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "This community connection is such a beautiful story." "Absolutely," Evelyn chimed in, her excitement contagious. "We'd love to share our family's history and our vision for the estate's future." As the article was published a few days later, the response was overwhelming. Support flooded in from the community, and Harold felt a surge of hope as donations began to trickle in, enough to help secure their bid at the auction. But with the rising support came whispers of opposition. Rumors began to swirl about potential buyers who were interested in the estate, eager to convert it into a commercial venture. Harold's heart sank as he realized that the fight was far from over. In the days leading up to the auction, he and Evelyn worked tirelessly, preparing their presentation and gathering community testimonials. They reached out to local historians who could speak to the significance of the estate, ensuring their case was compelling and backed by historical evidence. As they sat in their living room one evening, surrounded by documents and notes, Evelyn looked up from her papers. "Dad, what if we don't win? What if someone else buys the estate?" Harold paused, meeting her gaze. "We have to believe in what we're fighting for, Evelyn. This estate represents more than just property. It embodies our family's spirit and our community's heart. We can't lose sight of that." "I know, but I'm scared," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "What if we lose everything?" Harold took her hand, squeezing it gently. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together. This is about more than just the estate. It's about our family and the values we hold dear. We won't back down." The day of the auction arrived, and tension hung in the air like a thick fog. Harold and Evelyn stood outside the imposing auction house, the grandeur of the building contrasting sharply with the uncertainty swirling within them. They could hear the murmurs of potential buyers, wealthy investors looking to capitalize on the estate's value. Inside, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. Harold glanced at Evelyn, who wore a determined expression, but he could see the flicker of apprehension in her eyes. "Remember, we have the community behind us," he reminded her softly. As they took their seats, Harold scanned the room, noticing familiar faces among the crowd, neighbors and friends who had rallied in support of their cause. A sense of warmth enveloped him. They were not alone in this fight. The auctioneer stepped up to the podium, and the room fell silent. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Today, we are here to auction the historic Whitmore estate," he announced, his voice smooth and authoritative. "Bidding will begin at $250,000. Harold's heart raced as the auction commenced. He listened intently as bids began to rise, each number echoing in his mind. He felt a mixture of anxiety and hope, knowing that they had prepared their best case but unsure of how it would be received. As the bidding intensified, Harold's focus shifted. He and Evelyn had agreed that they would make their bid at a critical moment to demonstrate their commitment and the community's support. They had carefully calculated their limit, and he could feel the weight of that decision pressing down on him. "500,000!" shouted a prospective buyer from the back of the room, and a murmur rippled through the crowd. Harold clenched his fists, his heart pounding. "We have to go now," he whispered to Evelyn. "Okay, let's do it," she replied, determination shining in her eyes. Harold stood up, his voice steady as he called out, 600,000. The room fell silent, all eyes turning to them. The bidding war paused momentarily, and he felt a wave of adrenaline wash over him. But the silence was short-lived. Another bidder quickly countered, 700,000. Harold's stomach dropped. They were climbing higher than he had anticipated. "We can do this, Dad," Evelyn urged, her eyes alight with fierce determination. 800,000. Harold shouted, willing himself to remain composed. The auctioneer's gavel rapped against the podium, the sound reverberating like a heartbeat. 800,000. "Do I hear 900? The tension in the room was palpable, and Harold could feel the sweat beating at his temples. This was a fight not just for the estate, but for the very identity of their family and community. As the auctioneer called out for bids, the back and forth continued. The other bidders, clearly motivated by profit, didn't seem to share the same emotional investment in the estate. That thought fortified Harold's resolve. "Come on, we can't let this slip away," Evelyn urged, her voice fierce with conviction. With each new bid, Harold felt the burden of their family's legacy pressing upon him more heavily. Memories of his father, of the stories passed down through generations, flooded his mind. He could almost hear his father's voice urging him to fight for what mattered. "Sold!" the auctioneer finally cried out, and a deafening silence fell over the room. Harold's heart raced as he realized the final bid had come from their competitor, an outsider with no ties to the estate or its history. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but he knew they had fought valiantly. As the auction concluded, Evelyn turned to him, her expression a mix of disbelief and heartbreak. "We tried our best," she whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. "Yeah," Harold replied, feeling a crushing sense of loss. "But we still have the community behind us. This isn't over." Determined not to let despair take hold, they gathered their papers and walked out of the auction house, shoulders squared. Outside, the sunlight felt different, brighter yet heavier, a reminder of the journey they had undertaken. "Dad," Evelyn said, her voice steadier now, "what if we find a way to fight back? We can't just let it end here." He nodded, a flicker of hope igniting within him. "You're right, we can seek legal advice, challenge the sale if we find any discrepancies in the auction process." As they drove back to the estate, a renewed sense of determination settled over them. They would not let the Whitmore legacy slip away without a fight. Back at the estate, they convened in the study, the journal and family documents spread out before them like a battlefield map. They began to strategize, poring over every detail and considering their next steps. Days turned into weeks as they delved deeper into their family history, seeking allies among local historians and community leaders. They gathered testimonies and records, building a case to present to the court. With each new piece of information, they fortified their resolve. One evening, as they reviewed their findings, Evelyn leaned back in her chair, a thoughtful expression on her face. "Dad, What if we discovered something else hidden in the estate? Something that could turn the tide in our favor? Like what? Harold asked, intrigued. Maybe there's more to that hidden chamber. If there are additional secrets, something about the estate's original ownership or rights, that could help our case, she suggested, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Let's investigate, he replied, his pulse quickening at the prospect of another discovery. They returned to the hidden chamber, armed with flashlights and the determination to uncover more. The air felt thick with possibility as they began to sift through the remnants of the past once more, searching for anything that might give them an edge. Hours passed as they combed through the dusty artifacts, but just as they were about to give up, Evelyn stumbled upon an old ledger hidden beneath a loose floorboard. "Dad, look at this," she exclaimed, holding it up triumphantly. Harold took the ledger, his heart racing as he carefully opened its pages. The entries were handwritten, detailing transactions, dates, and names from decades past. "This could be what we need," he said, flipping through the brittle pages, tracing the names with his fingers. As they delved deeper into the ledger, they discovered a series of transactions that hinted at the estate's original ownership and potential legal loopholes. "If we can connect these records to our family, we might have grounds to challenge the auction," Harold breathed, excitement bubbling within him. Evelyn's eyes gleamed with determination. "Let's take this to Robert. He'll know what to do." With renewed hope, they raced to their lawyer's office the next day, armed with the ledger and their findings. Robert listened intently as they explained their discoveries, his brows furrowing in concentration. "This is quite significant," he said, examining the documents closely. "If we can establish a clear lineage and prove the estate was misrepresented at auction, we might have a solid case." Harold felt a surge of adrenaline. "So, what's our next step?" "We'll need to gather more evidence and prepare for a legal challenge. This will take time, but if we can prove our claims, we might just have a chance to reclaim what is rightfully yours." As they left Robert's office, Harold turned to Evelyn, the weight of their quest suddenly feeling lighter. "We're not done yet," he said, a smile breaking through the tension. Together, they embarked on a new chapter in their fight for the estate, determined to uncover every piece of evidence that would lead them to victory. They would not rest until they secured the future of the Whitmore legacy, a future that was steeped in history, community, and the unyielding spirit of family. With every day that passed, their determination grew stronger, and they rallied the community around them once more. They organized meetings, encouraging residents to share their stories and support their cause. The estate had become a symbol of resilience, and together, they would fight to ensure it remained a part of their shared history. As they faced the challenges ahead, Harold and Evelyn knew they were not alone. Their family's legacy was intertwined with the community's heart, and they would protect it at all costs. The battle for the Whitmore estate was far from over, and as they prepared to take the next steps, they were ready to face whatever lay ahead, together. The journey was only beginning, and they were determined to uncover every secret, to fight every battle, and to reclaim not just the estate, but the very essence of their family's legacy. As the days turned into weeks, Harold and Evelyn immersed themselves in the legal battle to reclaim the Whitmore estate. Their resolve only strengthened as they uncovered more historical records that linked their family to the property. Each document they found felt like a stepping stone back to their heritage, a tangible reminder of the legacy they were fighting for. With Robert's guidance, they meticulously prepared their case, crafting a narrative that showcased not just the legal aspects of ownership, but the emotional connection their family had to the estate and the community. They planned to present their findings at the court hearing, where they would argue against the recent sale. Finally, the day of the hearing arrived. The air was thick with tension as Harold and Evelyn stood outside the courthouse, their hearts pounding in unison. Friends and neighbors gathered to show their support, a testament to the community's commitment to preserving the Whitmore legacy. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. The judge took her seat, and the room quieted as she called the proceedings to order. Harold felt a wave of emotion wash over him. This was their moment, the culmination of weeks of hard work and determination. "Mr. Whitmore, you may present your case," the judge said, looking expectantly at Harold. With a deep breath, he stepped forward, feeling the weight of his family's history on his shoulders. He began by recounting the story of the Whitmore estate, its founding, its significance to the community, and the values it represented. He spoke passionately about the importance of preserving the estate as a gathering place, a testament to their family's commitment to the community. As he spoke, he could see nods of agreement from those present. The room buzzed with energy, and he could feel the support of his neighbors bolstering his resolve. "Your Honor," he continued, "we have gathered evidence that shows this estate was not only the rightful property of my family, but a beacon of hope and unity for our community. The auction that took place was marred by misrepresentation, and we believe the decision to sell was made without acknowledging the true value of this estate, not just in monetary terms, but in the heritage it represents." With that, he presented the ledger and other documents they had uncovered, detailing the connections that solidified their claim. Robert supported Harold's arguments, adding legal expertise that emphasized the estate's rightful ownership and the flaws in the auction process. When it was the opposing party's turn to speak, Harold's heart sank as the wealthy buyer's attorney took the floor. He presented a slick, corporate argument, focusing solely on profit margins and development potential, dismissing the emotional ties Harold had so passionately defended. The stark contrast in perspectives was jarring. While Harold spoke of family, history, and community, the buyer's lawyer painted a picture of opportunity and investment. It was clear that they were not just fighting for a piece of land. They were battling two vastly different visions for the future. After hours of deliberation, the judge called for a recess, and tension hung in the air like a thick fog. Harold and Evelyn stepped outside for a moment, needing to catch their breath. "I'm worried, Dad," Evelyn admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if the judge sides with them? They have the resources and the backing." Harold took her hand, squeezing it reassuringly. "We've done everything we can do. We spoke from our hearts, and the community stands with us, and no matter the outcome, we've shown that the Whitmore legacy is still alive." As the court session resumed, Harold returned to the stand, ready to make a final plea. "Your Honor," he said, looking directly at the judge, "this estate is not just a property. It's a symbol of resilience, a testament to the values our family has upheld for generations. If we allow it to be sold off to the highest bidder without considering its true worth to our community, we risk losing a piece of ourselves." After closing arguments were made, the judge took a moment to deliberate. The courtroom sat in tense silence, each second stretching into what felt like an eternity. Finally, she spoke. "I have reviewed the evidence presented," she said, her voice calm yet authoritative. "This case raises important questions not only about ownership but about the responsibilities that come with that ownership. The history of the Whitmore estate is intertwined with the lives of many in this community." The room held its breath as the judge continued. "Therefore, I will grant a temporary injunction against the sale of the estate, pending further investigation into the auction process and the legitimacy of the claims made by both parties." A wave of relief washed over Harold and Evelyn, and cheers erupted from their supporters. They embraced tightly, tears of joy streaming down Evelyn's face. "We did it, Dad!" she exclaimed, her voice choked with emotion. As they left the courthouse, the sun shone brightly, illuminating the path ahead. They had won a critical battle, but the war was not over. The judge's decision meant they had time to strengthen their case and rally even more community support. Over the next few weeks, they continued to gather testimonials and evidence, determined to protect their family's legacy. The community rallied behind them, organizing fundraisers and events that highlighted the importance of the estate. With each passing day, the tide turned in their favor. The narrative began to shift, and more people recognized the significance of the Whitmore estate as a cultural and historical landmark. Finally, the day came for the next court appearance. Harold and Evelyn entered the courtroom once more, this time filled with a renewed sense of hope. The judge listened attentively as both sides presented their arguments, but this time, Harold felt a palpable shift in the atmosphere. As the opposing party's attorney began to falter under scrutiny, Harold seized the moment. "Your Honor, I would like to present testimony from community members who have been directly impacted by the estate. Their voices matter in this decision." With that, several residents stood to share their experiences, how the estate had been a place of gathering, celebration, and solace. They spoke of family events held on the grounds, the history that ran deep, and the need for the estate to remain a communal space. The judge listened intently, and by the end of the testimonies, the atmosphere in the courtroom was electric with emotion. When the judge rendered her decision, it felt like the culmination of everything they had fought for. I have taken into account the testimony of the community and the historical significance of the Whitmore estate. It is my ruling that the estate shall remain with the Whitmore family, and I urge both parties to come to a mutually agreeable solution that honors its legacy. Harold felt as if the ground had shifted beneath him, a wave of disbelief and joy crashing over him. The courtroom erupted in applause, and tears streamed down his face as he embraced Evelyn. "We did it!" she shouted, laughing through her tears. In the weeks that followed, they worked together with the new owners to find a solution that respected the estate's history while allowing for its preservation. Harold and Evelyn proposed community events and educational programs that would ensure the estate remained a vibrant part of the town's fabric. As they stood on the estate's grounds one evening, looking out at the gardens that had been a backdrop to so many family memories, Harold felt an overwhelming sense of peace. They had fought hard, not just for property, but for something far greater, a legacy that connected generations past to the present and future. "We're going to make this place thrive again," Evelyn said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Imagine all the new stories we'll create here." Harold nodded, feeling a sense of fulfillment. "We'll honor the past and create a bright future together. This is just the beginning." And as the sun set over the estate, casting a warm glow over the land, they knew they had not only reclaimed their family's legacy, but had also woven their story into the larger tapestry of the community. Together, they would build a future that honored the past while welcoming all that was yet to come.